Hello and welcome to Bargain Bin. It's a video game podcast where Johnny and Jamie discuss games that are cheap and we try to get them to you in a manner where we give our little recommendation and maybe even introduce you to something that you haven't seen yet. We play them mostly kind of on Steam here. And Jamie, do you want to tell us what game we're talking about this week?
Certainly. This week we are talking about Rightfully, Beary Arms. So this game was released on January 27th of 2026, and it is sort of like a top-down bullet hell shooter roguelite where you act as a cute little bear in some PJs, and, in typical roguelite fashion, you're going through different levels, randomly generated maps, trying to defeat all the enemies, trying to defeat the bosses in order to reach the end of the game. You get your upgrades throughout your runs. You get some of the upgrades that persist past the runs. Ecta. This game is... You're looking at me weird. It's just another way to say etc., etc.
Yep.
You hate it. I love it. Ecta. This game is $9.99 on Steam at the moment of us recording this podcast. It has only 25 reviews so far, so it hasn't really picked up any steam on Steam. So hopefully this review, if you find it, can help guide your decision to play or not to play this game. The developer, and I believe the publisher as well, is Daylight Basement Studio, LLC. Looks like it's a small group of people, maybe about 3 people on the main team, with some collaborators who come in and out. And I think that is kind of the general overview of the game. Am I missing anything? Anything you want to add in?
Nothing from me. Great job.
Great. Then I guess we can just kind of jump in talking more about the nuance of the game loop, all the aspects. I'm sure our opinions will get sprinkled in here and there. Johnny, do you want to start with just kind of giving your, first impressions? You can also talk about the game loop if you want. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so I realized that I often just say games are other games on this podcast, and I apologize for that.
We have talked about trying to not do that since each game is a unique experience, but keep going.
I was just going to say that we don't have to do that this time.
Well, I think it's helpful to provide reference on what a game might be similar to, as long as we do justice in, talking about this game.
I mean, what we have here is a kind of projectile-based roguelike. So it's or Rogue-lite, I should say, because you've got some improvements happening. So you got a little bear. They always get one of 3 guns at the beginning, and you go into these kind of procedurally generated dungeons, and you shoot enemies, and you get little upgrade chests. And then when you do that enough, you get a boss, and then you move on to the next stage if you can beat the boss. And that reminds me a lot of, I'll just say it once, Enter the Gungeon, which was
Done. You said it.
It was a landmark.
It's out there.
Roguelite, similar vein, gun-based, procedurally generated dungeons. Kind of exactly the same. Okay, never mind. Moving forward, I really enjoyed the way the guns felt when I first played Rightfully, Beary Arms. You can really feel kind of like the feedback in your controller. I was playing it on the Steam Deck, and the aiming feels good. There's like a little auto aim feature alongside the manual aim, so like you can be aiming kind of in the general direction and it'll lock on, which is nice.
Yeah, and I think that's something you can toggle on and off.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, generally out of the box, I really liked the way the guns felt. I thought it was cute that you could, like, when you beat a boss, put different outfits on the bear. That was a nice touch.
Yeah.
Overall, I think, like, just in my comparative brain, not saying it is another game, but saying it is kind of going for a similar loop as another game we've played on the show, Dun Jungle, as far as, like, you enter a dungeon, you clear it, you move on to the next one, and you gain kind of boons throughout each run as you go.
It's kind of that classic roguelite fashion, or the action roguelike.
And it's a top-down game, rightfully, Beary Arms, as opposed to Dun Jungle, which is kind of a side scroller. But one of the things that I didn't appreciate about Dun Jungle at the time, and it's a game we both enjoyed, but I didn't appreciate this, was like the variety in bosses in particular, and the variety in like paths that you could take in that game, since you were going through multiple doors and each one kind of had a different vibe to it, and there were a number of different challenges. It kept the replayability really high, I think. Whereas for Rightfully Beary Arms, it's like it gets very samey very fast. As far as like I said, I enjoyed my first couple runs. I thought the gunplay felt good. I thought the outfits were cute. I thought the enemies were varied enough. But then by like the third, fourth, fifth time I was going and fighting the first boss, which is like a little bat boy.
A big bat boy.
A big bat boy.
It's pretty huge.
And we mean bat like the flying thing, not the not a baseball bat. But yeah, what I mean is like, there's only so many times I wanted to do that. And in something like Dun Jungle, you can like die and then be like, I'm going to go again, and I might not see, any of the same passageways or the same boss again. Whereas in Rightfully Beary Arms, after, third, fourth, fifth time, I found myself really not wanting to go again, because I knew that like the vast majority of the experience, if I didn't, make it that much farther, would be pretty much exactly the same. So I think that was like this game's major downfall, in addition to just, we've talked about this off air, like it's just, I'm kind of sick of this formula. I mean, like, a lot of cheaper games do it because it's easier to develop for and easier to develop an experience that is like worth paying for a consumer, since they can usually get like 15 to 20 hours out of a game like this, where you're kind of like doing runs on runs on runs to try to improve. But I just think there was not enough meat on the bone for this particular roguelike to sustain that kind of experience.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of the trap. Is like you said, the genre is probably easier to develop, especially if you're like developers with limited time or resources, but it's such a hard genre to do well. I was reading an article or a blog post someone wrote about this game, talking about like, in a genre where you're repeating the same maps and levels and seeing the same bosses and enemies, like how do you keep it fresh and engaging? And like, yeah, you mentioned Dun Jungle, and again, that is why I thought it was such a great game, is because it found that and it did that, and like you felt excited to dive back in. And like you said, like this game just doesn't really. And I think on top of that, it's pretty hard. Like I found myself questioning if I even was familiar with this genre, because it just was a struggle bus on my first few plays. And like I could see value in wanting a more difficult roguelite, but I think if that's what you're going for, like a steep learning curve and difficulty and really trying to get the hang of things and having to play a lot to get better and to progress, then like you also need the aspects that are going to draw a player to want to keep jumping back in and trying. And like you said, I agree. I don't think this game really provided that. I think, you mentioned the weapons. I would agree. I think that was my favorite part. The feel of the weapons was really cool, and the weapons themselves are fun to discover. There's a lot of silly ones. There's like a mac and cheese gun. There's a crop duster, which makes fart noises when you reload. There's all sorts of other guns or weapons that are like plays on words. But that, like that was really great. That was really fun. But then, like you mentioned, like the boss is the same. I think there are a lot of aspects where the mechanics and gameplay felt unintuitive to me. The movement, I didn't really felt that great. There are a lot of times where there are like walls or gaps or like flooring that didn't feel that great. I was excited to play the game because it's a cute bear on the screen, but then like when I entered the world, it's pixel art, which again you kind of maybe expect out of a game like this, but like you can't really see the detail on the bear that well, or some of the things. Like I'm not a master of pixel art by any means, or like know how to do it better, but I just felt like the art wasn't really that great. Like you couldn't see the detail on like the cute bear, which is such a feature and like draw to the game, is that you're playing as a cute bear.
Perhaps one of the only things that separates it from Enter the Gungeon. Never mind. I agree with a lot of your takes. I don't feel qualified to critique the art since, I can't do it. And I don't know. I guess it gets into this, like, I would like to discuss, I guess another thing we should discuss is just like the sound design, which I actually thought was pretty good. I thought the songs were kind of vibey.
I liked the music.
They were unique in that they weren't just like chip tunes like you might expect out of an indie. They were kind of like, it was kind of this mix of like chip tunes, but like also trance, and like there was an interesting like beat to it. Then it wasn't like a drum beat. It was kind of like I don't know. It sounded almost like a theremin to me, which is like this weird, like ghostly instrument that was doing some of the percussive, like music in time. So I enjoyed it. And I guess the only other thing before we move on to a more general discussion that I want to have, and I wanted to open the floor to you before doing that, is like the different stages. That was another thing I wanted to touch on, as far as like, in some stages you have to like dash over gaps, which I guess is like a bit of a change. But other than that, outside of like some window dressing, they're all kind of similar in that like you meet enemies. The enemies do get slightly harder, but not that much. And
I feel like they get more health. Like it takes more damage to take them down. But I would agree that there's not much variety in them, I felt like, besides them just looking different.
Yeah, which like, it's not nothing.
Right.
And the stages do look different and have kind of an interesting theme to each of them, which I don't want to completely downplay, but that's just another reason why I didn't think it quite got there for me.
Yeah, I would agree too. I was also a bit disappointed in the different levels and map. Like that's what I find one of the most exciting things, is when you get to a new level. It's so exciting to be like, this is going to be a whole other area. It's going to have a different vibe, different enemies, different feel, different music. And it hit on some of those things, and others I think it just fell short on. And I think, again, that was kind of, there's then a lack of a draw to want to dive back in and hit the next area.
I agree. I also wanted to hear about, so I think well, first off, anything else you wanted to talk about with the game? Because I know sometimes I jump forward with transitions.
I do want to talk about some of the like mementos in writing.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, this would be a good time.
I think so.
Yeah, so the game also sprinkles in, I guess, somewhat of a story. It feels like you're in a dreamscape. Like your landing room is a bedroom that's kind of glitched out, and then when you defeat each boss, there's like kind of like a cloud dreamy landscape you're in. So it feels like you're in kind of the dreams of this bear. And throughout the game, there are mementos you can discover, and then different journal entries, or like ways to almost see sneak peeks into this story, which I often love. Like I love a game with a story. I love like discovering kind of the background or the origin of like the character you're playing in. But I also feel like this game really fell short on that. Like the mementos felt random to me. Like there's a cute little description on them, but they didn't seem to connect into whatever story might be going on. And then the journal entries and some of the snippets you get, like it feels like there's some sort of dark story thing, but all of the writing was very, I feel like, abstract and like not very grounded. And I felt like those things were almost just in the game to be in the game and weren't adding to the game in any way. And that's like another thing that I felt like, if there was a story in each level you progress through and you are kind of uncovering more of this story, and there are like hooks to bring you in and be like, oh shoot, like that's what's going on here, that's what happened to this bear, like that's another reason to want to come back in and go through each of the levels and keep punishing yourself through the difficulty. And that was just another part I was disappointed in. I felt like the writing wasn't that good. The pieces didn't tie together in a way that made sense to me and that I understood. And I feel like that was another miss on this game.
To me, it was a story in, again, another kind of hollow echo of another game. Like Hollow Knight, not to use hollow twice, but Hollow Knight is a similar game only in that its story, you get it completely through the environment, and a lot of people are like, I have no freaking idea what's going on, so I have to watch like a YouTube explainer or whatever. But it is there, and I just think that like this is that, but done worse and like more harder to understand. And obviously like Hollow Knight is in a league of its own as far as popularity. But that's why people have the patience to do like a 6-hour explainer video on its lore. I wonder if Rightfully Beary Arms gets that. I'd be surprised, but I would watch the video.
There's no way.
I just think that like it's a game that is trying to do a lot of things that a lot of other games do, and it's doing it slightly worse. And so it makes me very reflective on like where we are with this kind of like, not only with games, in general, and Steam games in particular, but like where we are with this bargain bin project. Like I want to make sure that we are continuing to play games that feel like nourishing rather than like just cheap kind of clones of other games, which I don't think Rightfully Beary Arms is like gets that low in my estimation. Like I want to give the devs credit. They made a game that holds together and is fun to play for an hour or two. I don't think I can give them more than that as far as positive praise, but like it is, even doing that, I think takes years or at least like a ton of concerted effort over time. And I don't want to downplay that. It's more just like...
And that's not to say either that there aren't going to be people who play this game and do enjoy it.
Totally. Yeah. I think if you're into roguelikes and you're into gun games, you could do worse. But I think this gets at the larger conversation I wanted to have with you, which is like, you have recently been playing a game. You'll have to remind me of the exact title because I think it's a little long.
Hail to the Rainbow.
Hail to the Rainbow. And I've been playing some like older JRPGs and tactical RPGs on the 3DS and PSP. And while those aren't the same, I know they're not in the same genre. Yours is like a first-person story horror shooter thing that I want to hear more about, and I'm sure we will in Binnable Moments. But and mine are like obviously turn-based battles with like this overarching narrative and chibi graphics and all that. But I guess what I'm getting at is like there was an era, in the past where these larger studios were making these experiences that were supposed to be, 20 to 30 hours, go through a story, and you never touch it again, unless you're replaying the exact same story. And there are obviously games that are still like that happening today with the game you're playing. And I was just wondering, like, if we could create a world of developers that were just making, one type of game, or not one type of game, but like focusing on one over the other. It seems like the focus today is on these kind of like replayable, Balatro-like, Enter the Gungeon like, Slay the Spire like experiences that, can be at the $10 to $15 price range, can be streamable, can be in this formula that is so familiar to PC gamers in particular these days, that they'll sell. And I was just wondering, like, if you took selling out of the equation, where would you like to see like games going, or what is the value that you see in each different genre? And like, what do you feel when you're playing it? Because for me, like playing a Slay the Spire, I feel very differently than when I'm playing a Radiant Historia, which is the JRPG I'm playing right now. And the fact that they're both contained in the genre of games, I just think is fascinating.
Yeah, certainly, because they are so different. I mean, I feel like the only thing that really ties them together is that they're both games. And I think that's why you get certain people who only really play the like Slay the Spire style, or players who only play the JRPG style. You get people like very set in their different categories because they are so different. And yeah, I don't know, it's interesting. I mean, like, that's probably something we could talk about, is if we like wanted to focus on one style or another, or if we do want to keep it general. I've enjoyed playing a lot of different styles of games. There's also an aspect of, there are games out there that are just being created to try to sell. And it's also that we see so many more of those games in front of us because they are potentially the ones that are getting more hype or like getting hooked on things. But, there are still those games that people make out of passion and not just to sell, but because they want to make a good game. And like, I think that's what, I envision our goal kind of to be, is to like find those games, to be sifting through the bin and to like find those beautiful games that are newly released but might not see as much of the light of the day because, they haven't had as much of the marketing, or they don't, latch on to virality as much. And it's a hard thing to do, especially when we're looking at, a list of new releases and there aren't any reviews, and you're just having to go off of like the few people who have played it, and you don't know if they're friends of the dev or something, and you're like just looking at the game trailers. And a lot of new releases are, roguelites and whatnot. People, like developers who don't have the time or the money, like we're doing indie games and we're doing cheaper games, so it's probably people who don't have as many resources, and it takes more effort to like research into the games a bit more, see if they're in early access, see how much time the developer put into the game and things like that. So it's a hard thing to do, but I think it's a valiant mission.
So you're saying next time we can play the typing-based dungeon crawler?
No.
That's one that I recommended for this week, and I just thought it was really cool. Well, I
was reading some of the reviews on that one, though, and people were like, I thought I had a pretty fast typing speed, and I couldn't even get past the second person.
Yeah, well.
My typing speed is not noteworthy. It would not be meddling at all, so I don't think I would be able to play this game.
You're a software developer, though.
I know. It's probably like one of my biggest points of shame.
We should make a game together. Anyway, I was reading this this book called Queer Games Avant-Garde by Bonnie Ruberg. And the reason I recommended this typing roguelike, well, it wasn't a roguelike, sorry, this typing dungeon crawler, is because I thought it was really cool that and this is a tangent, I know, but we're talking about games. I thought it was really cool because the conceit was that like the main character is like disabled and like in kind of like a wheelchair adjacent situation, and so like, and you're typing, so it kind of like mirrors the kind of communication devices that folks who are severely disabled like have to deal with in.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I was just mentioning this book too because I would read about these games that are off the beaten path and made by folks with marginalized identities, and I'd be like, that does not sound fun or playable at all. And perhaps this game is the same, but I just like, I wanted to bring that into this conversation just because I think that like us being intentional about not just playing games that look like good or fun necessarily, which like Rightfully Beary Arms was that. Like I took a look at it and I was like, this looks good and fun. And it turned out that it was kind of just like crunching down on a lollipop and like so saccharine and like... Oh,
that's such a good visual.
Yeah, and like I want us to, have a bite of the like very complex dish that maybe our palate is not used to and maybe we don't like, but
that like a chef put a lot of
that someone put their
into.
soul into. And so while I think there's a place for both on the show, I want to more intentionally seek those experiences out with you and get to the heart of like not only what fun is in games, but what like what meaning and what a meaningful game looks like, being an exchange between developer and player. Because I think like the best games demand a lot of the player because the developer was uncompromising and the player rises to meet that demand. And that's why I think a lot of people's favorite games are inaccessible, because you'll hear someone be like, oh, I love Death Stranding 1. Like, I spent like 70 hours building like zip lines when I got to the top of this mountain and I was really depressed in February of 2022. And I'm like, I can't do that. I can't bring myself there. But I think that's why like games journalism and games writing is so fascinating to me too, because you can get close to that experience without having to have it yourself. And that's another way that I want the show to progress, is like us playing games and talking about our feelings with them. And they're complex. They're not just like, this was crunching down on a lollipop, I hated it, or this was like, a great ice cream cone that I consumed in 5 minutes, I loved it, and it was really sweet and good. Like, I want to have some chili. I want to have some marinated tofu. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and but I mean, that too is like, we're in the bargain bin. Like, we're going to pick up a lot of bad games and we're going to like hopefully find a hidden gem here and there. I do think we could probably start looking into trying to get some free access codes, because, even when we were talking about starting this podcast, we talked about if we wanted to like each play a different game and report on it, like if we would try to try out multiple games and then only, or like review all of them, but not really maybe complete any one of them. We end up landing on like, okay, let's pick a game together. We'll try to play as much of it as we can and then report on it. But that does unfortunately mean that, we might pick a game that's not that great and then be a little disappointed. But, I think it's very valid. Like, we could try to get some more free access codes and like be able to try a variety of games and then hopefully find one every few weeks or so that really feels like a meaningful hidden gem. But I think it might just take some tweaking, and that's kind of our goal. We want to find those hidden gems. It's tough to do.
We'll keep striving for it. I love doing this with you, so thanks for the discussion.
Thank you.
Moving on to, if you're ready, some endorsements for Rightfully Beary Arms. I can hop in and say, wow, like, I think I was a little more positive about the game than you. I think from what I've heard, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that like the guns felt really good, as I've said, and the like, they're quirky and they're interesting and they do change the way runs feel. And so like, if you are a roguelite person, if you are an Enter the Gungeon person, I do think you will like this. Don't think I'm quite as much that person, so I'm not going to endorse it. But it wasn't like a dismal experience, and I don't want it to come off like that.
Yeah, I'm not going to endorse it. There's always a part of me that like, I mean, this game wasn't my cup of tea. It might be someone else's. Like, it might be, someone might appreciate all the things that I don't appreciate out of it. And that's totally fair. I think I put in like 4 hours on this game and then had no interest to continue playing it. And like, from my perspective, like, I feel like I've played a few different roguelites and really enjoyed the genre. And I didn't like this because I feel like I've played better games, especially with this game being at the $10 mark.
Fair.
Like, I would find more value in this, I think, if it was at like the $5 or $6 mark. But up at the 10, I think you can like spend a few extra dollars to play a better game.
True. That's another weird thing with games, is like when you're comparing these like absolute stunners to games that don't get a lot of press, it's like, wow, a $5 difference between
yeah,
what you can name a bunch of titles, but yeah.
And I guess that's like, yeah, it's an interesting thought practice to be like, okay, if all the games were free, like, would this game be worth it? It's like, okay, if it's free alongside all these other great games, like, no, I don't think you'd ever pick this up. I mean, you might pick it up to like just be like, oh, hey, what is this? Like, put in an hour, but then you're gonna go to a better game. And then when you put in like cost to it, yeah, $10. I don't know if this is worth that.
Let's move on to some binnable moments. Jamie, I know you probably have a lot. I'll hop in here just real quick and say I've been watching the Olympics, which has been dope. Even though the Olympics is like notoriously a super corrupt organization, the IOC. I love the athletes. I love the passion they give. I love seeing the snow and the mountains. And I think like in my ideal, I don't know if it's like a video game shop or like my house or what, but there's like tons of CRT TVs, and certainly a couple of them are going to be playing like old biathlon footage. So that's my dream. My dream has been updated. Take notice. Other than that, I've been getting really into the PSP. I've been getting all these cute little accessories for it.
It's so cool.
It's a cute novelty toy. Jamie got it for me for my birthday. I'm very grateful. Just got Daxter in the mail, and building out the physical game collection with the PSP has been bringing me joy. One other thing that I wanted to say is I've been listening to Into the Aether, another podcast that has far more listeners than ours. You probably know about it if you're listening to this one. But I find myself falling in and out of love with games like daily just because my brain is broken. And I like...
Don't say it's broken. That's just how your brain is.
It's not broken.
There are a lot of other people out there like that. And it's just society that tells us that might be wrong.
I have ups and downs. But one of the things that has helped me break out of that pattern recently is on that podcast. I forget which of the hosts said it, but they were both kind of along the same lines. They were talking about like how apathy is like the overwhelming emotion in our like internet age, and how a lot of like, if it's not political, like pushing us to one of the two poles, most of the messages online or on social media or what have you is like, if you're good at something, if you want to appear cool at something, you should act like you're above it, or like act like you don't care. And they were basically saying, because they're both like hyped up on caffeine, like loving games every episode, and I sometimes am like a little turned off by that. And I realized that like a lot of my negative emotions stem from like trying to perform apathy. And so a lot of what I have been trying to do with games and my thinking about games and enjoying them is like thinking about rooting joy in games and thinking about apathy like this old decrepit like stone layer in the soil, and having the roots like break through that layer and grow into kind of the more rooted and down to earth, grounded soil that joy is meant to be grown in. So that's kind of what I want to do, and we're gonna break through apathy together.
Yeah, I love that imagery. I mean, I feel like that's like a part of life, is like finding the things. And not even just like finding the things, because sometimes you can find the things and then still like it takes kind of something in you to, like you said, break through that apathetic layer, and you have to like, nourish those plants. Like you find the plant, you nourish it, you help it grow, and then hopefully it'll blossom. I love that.
Yeah, I think that's really the crux of it. It's like not just finding a thing or doing a thing, but being intentional about like being enthusiastic about that thing. Like I think is a step further and what I need, because I think that's what's been confusing as far as like, I like games, but then on this day I don't like them, so I must be broken or whatever. But like there's an intention behind enthusiasm that I think can be so powerful in today's world.
Certainly. And it's like, I think that's why too, maybe like the trope or the story, that kind of recurring story of, you get like the apathetic person who's just kind of dejected and not finding any beauty in life, and then they discover something or someone who like sees all the beauty in life and like sees the sunlight and like radiates joy, and it like helps break them out of their shell. Like I feel like we're so drawn to that story because that's kind of what we have to fight in day-to-day life. It's like we have to continue to find beauty and joy in the things in front of us. And it's like, for everyone's experience, the things are there, they're all happening around us and in front of us and whatnot. And it's just like we have to find the thing inside of us to determine how to interact with the world.
For sure.
For sure. Any other binnable moments for you?
That's it. I've talked long enough.
It's been cool watching you play the PSP games. Like, you showed me one that was a puzzle game, which was so neat. You have to like rotate the camera around to close gaps so like a little mannequin walks around. And yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of conversations about what games looked like in the past and what they look like now, and it's really cool to get to see some of those older games. So that's been like a mini binnable moment for me, is to experience that through your experience. But I'll jump into my main binnable moment. I guess I'll have to think if I have another, but like you mentioned, I've been playing a game called Hail to the Rainbow. Kind of on the topic of like us wanting to find other games. Like each week we end up picking one game, and there's so many others that look cool that we don't end up picking up. And so I kind of resolved to myself that I would try to do more quick, like blind run, let's play moments of some of the games that we pass up. I've been posting some of those videos on my YouTube, and yeah, with those, it's more of just trying to like experience the first little bit of a game, see how it is, but not pressure myself to have to finish it by any means. But one of the games I went back to was this game, Hail to the Rainbow. It released, I think, late November of 2025. And I was like immediately hooked. I'm gonna finish the thing. I've been streaming it. It's wild. It's been so good. It's like a cinematic game, like very story based. The game mechanics are pretty minimal, but like not that minimal. There are puzzles to figure out, some like combat scenes, some like chase scenes, but it's like really all about like the story, the visuals. It's first person. You're like in this post-apocalyptic cyberpunk world. Little did I know that it has horror aspects to it. I've never played a horror game before, and I don't know if I would have picked this up if it had been labeled as horror. That's definitely not, like, it's not a horror game, but it has like some jump scares in it, some like creepy horror elements, but that's not the premise of the game. And I don't know if horror games are going to be my genre. Some of those are like, you know, they get me adrenaline. I don't know if I like it, but I don't like it. But the way it ties into this game, it's just like, you know, we've been talking about hidden gems and like love being put into a game. And I feel like this is one of those. I've just really been enjoying my experience. It's been such a cool game. It's beautiful. The story's been engaging. I'm hooked. I think yesterday I was streaming. I hit like a 6-hour stream mark. It was the first time I've like streamed for that long, and even at that point I had to force myself to stop because like I wanted to keep playing the game and like progressing through the story, which was one of the first times in a long time that I've experienced that and had that feeling, which was really, really cool. Yeah, I'm really glad I picked up the game.
It's a good moment.
Yeah.
I guess that's it for us. If you enjoyed the show, please tell a friend, and you'll help us out. And anything else you want to leave listeners with, Jam?
I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, like, find a way. If is your email on the like listed on podcasts or anything? Any way to contact us?
Not currently.
Maybe we'll look into that.
Ooh, I don't know how uniting I'm gonna try to make the game stuff, but I am trying to do interviews with developers, and I did make an email for that. It's called indiegamegarden@gmail.com.
That's cute. Maybe we can use that.
Yeah.
Because I would say, like, just if, you know, if any of you are listening and have thoughts on, like, what you would want to see out of us, like, if you like us just playing and reviewing one game, or if you would enjoy, like, hearing about a smattering of games, or have any, like, suggestions on games, or even thoughts about games in general, like what we talked about today. Like, I know Johnny and I would both love to hear those and, like, actually get to interact with some of our listeners.
Yeah, I do feel like we are at a point where, like, even just one person reaching out would give us a lot of energy. So
yeah, you could just say, like, send an email that just says hello.
Yeah.
we might think it's kind of creepy and be like, oh my God,
Yeah,
who's
and
stalking
then put
us?
like a GIF of like from Scream 1 or something.
Yeah. And you could maybe even like attach a picture of us in our house.
Yeah. And then you can say like, do you like scary movies?
We'd feel very, very endeared by that. We
Yeah.
would be endeared by that.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.